Hello, BookTube. I've got a little bit more mail for you today just to keep the streak running so I don't fall out of the habit again. I have a pile of periodicals and a few packages. See if any books are of interest to either me or you. The first of the periodicals is the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, broadsheet newspaper from the island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts, which is currently in the throes of a fishing derby that is known the island over. And we have a beautiful original black and white photo here, but somebody scribbled on it. Somebody scribbled on my front page Vineyard Gazette. This issue does not have a review by me, but still, I think the front page illustrations on the Martha's Vineyard Gazette are usually beautiful. Mine has a scribble on it. Also, a very annoying sidebar story. Hunting season begins. Deer are plentiful, so this is a good reason to shoot them dead. I don't care how plentiful they are. They should be plentiful. Anyway, then I got 2 issues of Harper's simultaneously. So I'm assuming that I never know. It's terrible. I'm the worst mark in the world for magazine subscription hucksters because I never keep track of what I've subscribed to and what I haven't. Once upon a time, I used to have. My checks are in a book. They're not in a little billfold. They're in a book, 3 on 1 page. And I used to have a pad of those where you had the check, but underneath it was a mimeographed copy of what you had written. And that gave me a wonderful record of what I had and hadn't written. And I don't have that anymore. I just have ordinary checks, like a bridge troll. As a result, I may have fired off 2 checks to Harper's or not. I never know. I wait until I get some notice that's screaming at me in red with multiple exclamation points. We're going to die if you don't renew your subscription. I wait till I get that, and then I fire off a check. But I got 2 issues of Harper's, one for September and one for October. And the one for October has an article in it that I can't wait to get to. It's by Elizabeth Barber, who lives and works in Iowa City, Iowa. And it's called Standing Trial, Should We Care About Animal Liberation, in which she, among other things, visits a lot of industrial meat farming facilities in Iowa. So pigs especially, and more pigs than people in Iowa. And the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of them, die every year, having lived for only a year or a year and a half in absolutely abjectly horrifying conditions. And then their death is no better. Their death is often botched. It's often long. It's incredibly painful. It's a nightmare existence. And she goes into these places. Who knows what kind of access she got. And also, another thing I like for Harper's is that there will always be some big book coverage. Claire Massoud does their new books column, and that is way too often for my taste. It seems to be driven by whim. But then after that, there will be major book reviews, and I always go to them. They're always interesting. What have we got here? Yi-Yoon Lee writes a long review of The Hero of This Book by Elizabeth McCracken, which I just reviewed for Open Letters Review. And to put it mildly, I had my issues with it. I'll leave a link to the review if you're interested. But it's a tiny little thing. It would take you an hour to read. And she's blindingly talented. But I had lots of issues with the book. One in particular about lying. But then the other issue here is the September issue. No idea what wintering with John Travolta means. I have no idea what that means. Maybe it takes on a new meaning now in light of recent revelations. But this is, could surgery solve the opioid crisis? Surgery. I can think of 2 possible solutions to the opioid crisis that would be make a whole lot more sense than surgery on individual addicts. And one of them involves going after the people who are pushing the opioids. Seems obvious. If they hadn't bought a large contingent of Congress, it would have been done already. But the only people who are positioned to go after them are bought and owned by them. The other option, in case you're wondering, I won't stress it, is self-control. I try not to mention that horrible bugaboo anymore. But this issue also has major book coverage. And one of them is Christopher Taylor writing about a roundup of T.S. Eliot books like we saw just recently in another periodical, which I think is a little bit of a shame because Crawford's book, T.S. Eliot After the Wasteland, is brilliant and deserves to stand on its own in a review. It deserves not to be sharing space with other things. But it's natural. Book section editors always feel the urge to do this. They always feel the urge, if they can, to do a roundup, multiple books on one subject, because they have so little space and there are so many books. And then I just resist it. I've resisted it for most of my career when the case is egregious. When I'm dealing with an editor at some newspaper and I have 800 words, and I don't have any more than 800 words, no matter how well I like them, no matter how long we've known each other. And let's say an example is big, gigantic new study of Julius Caesar, let's say, that is groundbreaking and incredibly authoritative. Maybe it has already lots and lots of professional plaudits. And maybe there's one of those make-weight little, 10 things you didn't know about ancient Rome. And by happenstance, a book section editor that I'm dealing with has seen both of those books and thinks, well, can we put them together? And I've gone to bat more times than I can count in situations like that, saying, we can, but we shouldn't. The one book, 800 words, isn't barely enough to cover the achievement of the one book, and you want me to include another one that isn't even worth mentioning? That's why I always prefer, if I can, to be the person who sorts the books. If I'm the person who sorts the books, physically sorts the books, then no editor is ever going to get a wayward idea like that and try to run with it. Anyway, the other magazine is the New Yorker, with a lovely cover here. That is just lovely and evocative. There was something in here that got at me too. Yes, Adam Kirsch, who's a writer I often like. He is reviewing, at least I'm assuming, I'm looking at the table of contents here, but I'm assuming, let's go to page 66. It's a long article about John Donne, and as is true with the New Yorker, it will be mostly about John Donne and not really so much about any particular book under review. That's kind of the way that the New Yorker does it. I really like that way. But I can't help but think this is going to be a review of that little book that Super Infinite. I can't help but think that's what this is going to be, right? The problem is they don't even do an inset. Harper's or the Atlantic, they do a long essay about a book. They'll do a little inset right here to at least let you know in shorthand which book is the focus of the discussion. But I don't think, it is. Okay, it is about Catherine Rundle's book Super Infinite, which didn't do anything for me. But we'll see what Adam Kirsch says. and the neat thing, like I mentioned, the neat thing about it is that when I'm done, I'm sure that I'm going to want to cut it out, trim it, and keep it. And the neat thing about it is I won't have to worry about keeping it with Super Infinite. I doubt I will keep Super Infinite as a John Donne book. To put it mildly, there are more heavyweight books, more searching books on John Donne. But the nice thing is that since it's a New Yorker piece, it will be mostly about the subject rather than about the book. So it'll easily fit in a bigger, older John Donne book, and maybe in a much bigger, newer John Donne book. There is an incredibly annotated, utterly elaborate, beautifully done, big telephone-sized thing of John Donne that has apparently an enormous introduction that is basically the man's biography, and then hugely annotated editions of all the poems with tons of appendices and annexes and whatnot. Very much like to see that work. That would be very nice. But anyway, let's do the mail. This doesn't have to ramble on forever. I have a lot of periodicals in front of me to read, so that'll be fun, knowing that that's down the line. Let's get rid of an invoice. What have we got here? Okay, so this is for March of next year. I don't have to worry about it for right now. This is by Ren Di Stefano, and it's called How I'll Kill You. With a blurb by Samantha Downing. Oh my. Okay, well, that's a thriller then. Your next stay-up-all-night thriller, yes, about identical triplets who have a nasty habit of killing their boyfriends, and what happens when the youngest commits their worst crime yet, falling in love with her Mark. Oh my God, if this thing hasn't already been opted for Hollywood. I don't know what somebody's waiting for. Sissy has an interesting family. Always the cheerful one, or the careful one, always the cautious one, she has handled the cleanup while her serial killer sisters have carved a path of carnage across the U.S. Now, as they arrive in the Arizona heat, Sissy must step up and embrace the family pastime of making a man fall in love and then murdering him. Her first target? A young widower named Edison, and their mutual attraction is instant. While their relationship progresses, and most couples would be thinking about picking out china patterns and moving in together, Sissy's family is reminding her to think about picking out burial sites and moving on. Okay, this is the cover copy. But I'm really now hoping that the book has this kind of slightly tongue-in-cheek tone to it. That would be wonderful. An extended piece of serious comedy it's almost unheard of. And if it were effectively done, it would be very rare indeed. But then something happens that Sissy never anticipated. She begins to feel protective of Edison. And then, before she can help it, she's fallen in love. But the clock is ticking, and her sisters are growing restless. It becomes clear that the grave sites she chooses will hide a body no matter what happens. But if she betrays her family, will it be hers? Okay. I'm completely sold. I'm not going to be getting to this until March of 2023, but I'm completely sold. Ren DiStefano, How I'll Kill You. Let your library know that you want this. If you're a thriller fan, it sounds like you're going to want to read this. Who is Ren DiStefano? Oh, there was a pub sheet in here all along. I'm such a bad YouTuber. Who is Ren DiStefano? She's very young. She lives in Connecticut, where she was born and raised. Well, my condolences. When she's not writing thrillers, she's listening to true crime podcasts and crocheting way too many blankets. Sounds like a number of you. And the true crime podcasts that you listen to aren't listed, but I know that some of you are big fans of podcasts. Is there a particular true crime podcast or two that you really like? Okay, so when Ren is not writing thrillers, she is listening to true crime podcasts or crocheting way too many blankets. So does that mean that she's written other books? I don't have any listing for that. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm assuming from that note that this is not her debut, but I'll learn more about it much closer to the date. How are we going to do this feng shui here? And then we have two boxes, and the first of the boxes is refreshingly heavy. So this could be a finished copy of something. There's one finished copy that I really want because I want the illustrations, but I don't know if it'll be in here. Let's take a look and see. Okay, so this is from the good folks at Princeton University. Oh, somebody should call Olive into the room. Although she's a fan of a good thriller as much as I am. She might already be in the room, but oh my. Oh my. This is by Susan Myers, and it is called The Bird Name Book. And the reason it's so heavy is because it's that heavy-duty paper that allows for full-color illustrations, photos, drawings on almost every page. Oh wow, it's on almost every page. Incredible. There's a drawing of some ostriches. Oh my. Oh. Well, Olive's edict went out several months ago, right? When she said, quite simply, I want all the bird books. Oh my. So this comes out at the end of October. Big, heavy thing from Princeton there with a rogues gallery of birds on the back there. What have we got here? The Bird Name Book is an alphabetical reference book on the origins and meanings of common group bird names from Accentor to Zeladonia. A cornucopia of engaging facts and anecdotes, this superbly researched compendium presents a wealth of incisive entries alongside stunning photos by the author and beautiful historic prints and watercolors. The author provides brief biographies of prominent figures in ornithology from John Gould, John Latham, Alfred Newton, and Robert Ridgway, and goes on to describe the etymological history of every common group bird name found in standardized English. She interweaves the stories behind the names with quotes from publications dating back to the 1400s. Okay, well, this is a bird book with a vengeance. So, fantastic. So, the Bird Name Book, which is just a feast of visual content in addition to anything else. And then, all right, I wasn't expecting that at all. I don't think there was an advanced copy of this. Probably there wouldn't be, right? Because the whole point of it is visual. And you can't do that with an advanced copy. But let's do this last one. Oh, it's another finished copy. That's very good. Steve wants his finished copies. What is this next one? Also from the folks at Princeton Universal Press. What have we got here? There's an invoice. We certainly don't need an invoice. Oh no. Okay. All right, great. This is Michael Lamb's book, A Commonwealth of Hope, which we've already seen. This is his reevaluation of the political opinions of St. Augustine, which have for a long time reflexively been generated as negative. That St. Augustine has nothing but doom and pessimism for worldly kingdoms, for the world around us, that he is far more focused on the kingdom of God. Let's read this again, just in case some of you missed the first one. I have high hopes for this thing. I don't have a sheet for it, but I'm pretty sure that this is an early November book. I don't think it's an October release. When it comes to politics, Augustine of Hippo is renowned as one of history's great pessimists, and he sets his sights firmly on the heavenly city rather than the public square. Many have enlisted him to chasten political hopes, highlighting the realities of evil and encouraging citizens instead to cast their hopes on heaven. This book challenges prevailing interpretations of Augustinian pessimism, offering a new vision of his political thought that can also help today's citizens sustain hope in the face of despair. So as I mentioned the first time we talked about this, this is exactly the kind of thing I love, absolutely love. Some young scholar or old scholar goes at the original sources and says, well, I know what I was taught, but I honestly think there's something else going on here. Now, they might be wrong. Their interpretation might not bear weight. So the book goes out into the world, and maybe a whole bunch of other people who are really well read up on the subject say, no, you missed this, you missed that. But it doesn't matter. Even if the brickbats are entirely negative, you have still, by an inch, broadened the cloth of the whole genre. I love that. Absolutely love it. Amidst rising inequality, injustice, and political division, many citizens wonder what to hope for in politics and whether it is possible to forge common hopes in a deeply polarized society. The author takes up this challenge, offering the first in-depth analysis of Augustine's virtue of hope and its profound implications for political life. He draws on a wide range of Augustine's writings, including neglected sermons, letters, and treatises, and integrates insights from political theory, religious studies, theology, and philosophy. Shows how diverse citizens, both religious and secular, can unite around common hopes for the Commonwealth. Well, I have another finished copy of this, and I haven't got to it yet. I'm bombarded with other books, but I very much want to. I think this is a November release. So, as tempted as I am, I think I will probably concentrate on October books for a while anyway. But I don't have a second copy, so I need to find a suitably theological recipient for the second copy of this thing. I would automatically think of Jason Harrigan, but not only has he made a couple of videos talking about drastically downsizing his library, but we actually had a Zoom chat about him doing that. So all of a sudden, I don't feel like, hoovering up every book I find at the Brattle that has his name on it. So, but I'll find somebody. I have a friend here in Boston who runs a church. He may very well want to read this, although in the decades that we've known each other, whenever something like this comes up, and I go to him, it's his profession, it's his calling, it's his vocation, inevitably he will say, oh, that's a Steve book. I always want to say to him, didn't you go to seminary? What do you mean that's a Steve book? But we shall see. I will find a home for the second copy. So there you go. That was the mail. A whole slew of periodicals, including a lot of reviews that I look forward to reading. There is no chance at all that the review of Elizabeth McCracken's slim new book is going to change my mind on its central fault. But a new long piece about John Donne, a new long piece about T.S. Eliot, absolutely, I'll take them. I may even grace the rest of those magazines with a read, although they're always depressing. God, a 10-page article about meat farming in Iowa? How can you come out of that without just being murderously depressed? It's tough to do today. After days of clouds and rain and raw feelings, it's a beautiful sunny day. Really a taste of summer. And tomorrow is going to be a little bit more of the same. Low humidity, high temperature, bright skies. I think winter will return after that, but for today and tomorrow, no. So, but anyway, A Commonwealth of Hope, a double copy. How I'll Kill You, about one member of a murderous triplet set that actually falls in love with the man she's supposed to kill. what happens there. And finally, the Bird Name book by Susan Myers, all about the history of bird nomenclature, but with full of illustrations of all kinds, historical and photographs. Fantastic. Okay, so it's 2 from Princeton and 1 from Berkeley. So great. If more mail comes today, I will set it aside with a little sticky note saying, don't forget to open these on camera. We'll hope that we keep the trend going. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.